So I plan to get a start on getting the keyboards and pedals wired into these boards. But I made a mistake, and I don't think anybody watching the end of part one may have caught it. Someone who's done this work before probably did. But here is the wire bundles. And of course, it's a simple matter of bringing it up and wiring in until you get to the top. Well, this is number one right here. And as I mentioned, the telephone pair sequence starts out with white with blue and blue with white and so forth and so on. The problem with wiring it this way is I got to do that backwards. I got to start with, in other words, I got to start with the color pair from 49 and 50 and work down. Now that may not sound like a difficulty, except if you don't think it's difficult, try saying the alphabet backwards, Z, Y, X, and so forth up to A, and see how far you get before you think, wait, what comes next? We're used to saying the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And the same thing with wiring up these telephone cables. We know that we start with white with blue and blue with white. So what are my options? Well, one thing I could do is I could turn the boards around. The problem is that puts this on the opposite end of where I ran the bundles through. I could drill holes up here and run the bundles up from there, but that gets it kind of close to here, and I don't like that. I could bring the boards down lower and then drill a hole up around here, and still that brings me close to where the data ribbon cables connect together. And of course, if I go too low, I got to remember I have to attach ground wires to these lugs here. So my only option is to wire it, is to actually wire it the way I've got it in. And how I'm going to do that is I brought with me a diagram that lists the 25 pair cable color sequence, and I'll just read that backwards. Now there is the possibility that the person who wired these up, I think I found one or two or three mistakes. I'm not sure where they were. I should have wrote it down actually. But that the pair might be reversed. Well, I could just wire it up according to the color coding, and then when the relay finally gets operative, when we've got the computer on it, we can actually start playing notes. Those reverse notes will be found quite quickly, and it's just simply a matter of just switching the two wires around. That's not difficult at all. So I have options, but like I say, in order for me to wire this, I'm going to have to look at the wiring diagram of the color code sequence and read it from the bottom up so that I get the right color codes in the right number. Basically what I've done for the pedal, to start with the pedal board, in groups of 10, here's 5 pairs, 10 wires, here's 5 pair, 10 wires, here's 5 pair, 10 wires, that's 30, and here's 31 and 32. I'm going to take the time to ring this out as I wire them into the terminal block to make sure I don't have any reverse leads. So this is where I'm at with it so far. This represents 50 of the stop rail stops, less 3. 3 of them are not in this 50 wire bundle. I have to find where they are. Here is the pedal wired in, the accompany manual wired in, and the solo manual wired in. So what I have to determine is there's 30 top stop tabs on the center rail, and I managed to find one or 2 of them, I think, and they go into this bundle. Now this wire here is number 51 of the stop rail, and when I say 51 of the stop rail, that's 51 of the original stops that were actually on this instrument when built. But there's 3 additions additional ones, and I haven't been able to find those. Now, if you look over there, there's a big bundle of nylese wire coming down, and that comes from the center stop rail, and I think those, they're electromagnetic stops, direct electric, and I think those might have been Peterson, because I think Peterson is about the only company that I know of for sure that may have used nylese wire for these things. I can't say for sure, but that terminal or spreader that's going down, I'm assuming that spreader actually goes to the 30 stops that are on the center rail. There's a cutoff chunk of nylese wire down there, and I think that bundle of nylese wires went to a circuit board that operated the magnets for the stops, so you could turn the stops on and off with pistons. That, of course, for a while will not be used, but what I got to do is I got to find out where all 30 of the center stop rail tabs come. I did find two in this 25 pair cable. The one wire actually should go down to the next one below here. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to have to do this. I may have to actually put in a new cable and not deal with that nylese wire mess over there. That's just a mess to deal with. But I'll see what I can figure out. So this is a problem when you have two different people with their own ideas of how something should be wired in is involved. Now here is, I found, okay, and if you count from right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is number 10. If you're going to count from right to left. But when we go into the back of the console, you notice that they did number this spreader, number 1, 1 through, however, this isn't number 10. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's number 14. And it looks like it has a slate with red wire going to it. So what I have to do is determine now if the slate with red wire in that bundle is connected to there, because I have a feeling that some things have been misconnected or are not connected anymore. The wiring here is not very pretty. Nylese wire is really difficult to deal with. It's almost as difficult to deal with as original cotton covered wires like these. But anyways, this is what I'm trying to figure out, is where those 30 tabs actually come out on this spreader. And so that slate with red does indeed come out in this 25 pair cable. So that connects to, if you count from right to left, the 10th stop key from the right on the center rail. The problem is, in the numbering sequence of telephone pairs, this is wire number 20. And this is where it gets real sticky. How, somebody may have randomly wired these. They didn't go by the telephone color code pairs. So in order for me to figure this out, I have a choice. I could either label, or more than likely what I'll do is I'll document what colors go to what tab, and then just make sure that I have that documented. Just have to make sure that I do have tabs going into the inputs of the MIDI scanners. So it's going to be a little bit difficult kind of sorting all this out. So in the scope of how this thing works, it hasn't been wired according to the telephone sequence, which will make it difficult for me to trace it out. Here's the slate with red wire. Now that means that before the slate with red wire, there should be red with let's see, slate, red with yellow. So red with yellow should be here, and that's not here. This one is, let's see, slate, with red, red with, or yellow with blue, I think, comes here after red. Yeah, it's red. No, it's black. I'm sorry, black. I'm mixed up. But anyways, it's all out of sequence. The telephone sequence color code does not follow through. I'm going to have to trace it out by hand all the way because I can't rely on the colors of the wires. And I got that mixed up. When you're looking at pairs and primary colors and secondary colors, after a while you get dizzy and you forget what's what. So here's another icky situation. Found another stop tab on the center rail. It's right here connected to brown with white. However, this brown with white is not that brown with white. It's not that in that bundle. The brown with white in that bundle doesn't connect there. Here's another issue. The reason I couldn't find many of those is because there's more than one common on this thing. I don't know what they did, how this was wired, but I think my best decision is to clean this off, get rid of it, wire a new 25 pair cable to the center rail, and just get rid of that piece of cable. This wire I'll separate out because this wire goes in with the stop rail stop keys, but this does not play through. Very, very difficult to figure that out, what they did. And so here's why I couldn't find it. Here is brown with white, and it's spliced. And what is it spliced to? It's spliced with white with brown. So it's reversed. What does that tell me I need to do? I need to completely redo this. I can't go by what's been done here. I could take a month of Sundays to sort all it out. I don't understand the commons. Here's a diode. Here's a diode. What does that really mean, those diodes? So I think the best approach is to clean this out of here, get rid of the nylon wire, and wire directly to the stop tabs with a new 25 pair cable. So my work is taking me into the realm of adding new wires in the form of a 25 pair cable, 50 wires. That'll cover the 30 center rail stop tabs that exist on the console. And I have to find out where these two go. They're add-ons, but they'll be easy to figure out because they go into this little gray cable here, and I can trace that through pretty easy. I wasn't able to find them by wringing it out. But all of the other 51 stop tabs are accounted for. I did map out some of these, but that's now a moot point because I'm going to add a new cable and rewire those completely. And in the process of putting in a new 25 pair cable, I want to cover the 12 pistons in that same cable. I'll be disconnecting them from the internal combination action system. They'll be reconnected eventually one day when they put pipes on this console, but for now, as it's going virtual, I'm going to wire all 12 pistons into the MIDI scanner system. So if we go around to the back of the console, basically, again, here's what I have wired up so far. That big spreader there with the nylon wire on it, that's going. I'm gonna completely eliminate that, so that's the process that I'll be involved in. So here's where I'm at. I wasted over 2 hours in trying to avoid doing this. Here's all that nylon wire, and Here's the center rail stop tabs. This I could take home to wire up. I don't have to do that here. So I'll wire it up at home. And I'll also put a spare cable in there to cover the direct electric magnets for the future pipe organ version of this organ. It's going to be a virtual organ, of course. And my 25 pair cable that I'll wire in will start with number 13 here and work to the right, because the first 12 wires will be the pistons, the 12 pistons. So that's how I'm going to wire it up. So I'm still working on it, but like I say, I wasted a lot of time trying to avoid doing what you see here, cutting all that out. It was such a mess trying to figure out what went where and why. There was one case where if I found a common for like these 3 trap tabs, nothing happened until you turned all 3 on. I couldn't deal with that, so I'm going to wire the thing at home. So this is that center rail that I took out of the console. I brought it home to wire it, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to replace some of these stop tabs with some that look a little bit more appropriate. And I don't have much to work with. In my years of doing organ service work, through the years I've ended up with lots of stop tabs. These are Gulbranson. They came off a Gulbranson Rialto. And these 3 black tabs will replace the 3 that are painted, these painted up ones. This worked. It worked, but I just thought I'd put something on there that looks a little bit better. I took this Amplion tab that was here, that yellow one, and I moved the action closer to the tremulence tab so that there's 4 tremulence in a row. This is obviously a molar stop tab. I don't know where I got it, but it's molar. And it's for the tuba tremulant. It looks out of place, I know, but it's better than the painted one that was on there. This is a Gulbranson main trem, so I'll put 2 more tabs in here to replace those, and then I'm going to wire up the action. I'm not sure what I want to do, if anything, with these 2. I don't know what's underneath. Obviously they're reeds, marimba 8 and 4. If I remember right, on the organ that this was playing, I don't think the marimba ever did get installed yet. It will probably be installed with the bigger console, but it wasn't installed on the present instrument that this little console was playing. So I don't know, I might just leave this the way it is. I think it was Mr. Skinner, the organ builder, who made a comment that a theater organ stop rail kind of resembles a grocery store fruit and vegetable display. And so I'm going to do just that. These 2 red tabs, I have no idea what they say underneath it. They're labeled marimba 8 and 4. The other owner had planned to use those. I don't think the marimba ever got put on yet. But I'm going to take these off and move them over, eliminating some of these tibia tabs. Now the reason that there's tibia tabs on the horseshoe rail, but he had plans on having more than 1 tibia in his organ, a solo and a main, and that's why he put dots on some of these. But these will all be eliminated, these tibia tabs. And whatever I put on, these are Gulbranson tabs. I've had those left over from my years of doing organ service. I didn't work for Gulbranson, but I did a lot of Gulbranson work. But at any event, I'm going to eliminate some of these. There will be 4 tremulants. And what they say and what these tabs say really doesn't matter, because this console is going to be running a virtual organ, and the 12 pistons that are under the keyboards will be the primary stop change. Although we'll still be using the real physical stops, the combination action. I'm thinking that our club, the Dairyland Theater Organ Society, I think we own a copy of the Paramount 333, but I'm not real sure on that one. Anyways, eventually the club plans to convert this back to a real pipe organ. And the original center stop rail board is laying inside the console. It has, of course, short stop tabs and a very limited assortment of stops. So they're planning on putting 6 to maybe 8 ranks on it, and they'll probably try to make it back at least closer to the original Barton than what this is going to be. So anything I'm doing now really is just more or less a little bit of window dressing. What the stop tabs say is not all that important, but it's at least going to be a change from what we had. I don't see an improvement, just different than what was done. And so here's the result of what I did today. This is what all was on here, and this is how I reconfigured it with these genuine black couplers. It's hard to say if any of these string tabs or these blue percussion tabs are going to be assigned correctly. It's hard to say what's going to result when the end result, when the hop work gets configured. But to keep in mind, I have 4 trims on it, but to keep in mind that eventually the Dairyland Club wants to restore this organ a little bit closer to what it was originally when it was a Barton. And the original center rail, which only had a few short tabs on it, is still inside the console. It's just laying in there on top of the combination action relay box. So it's still there, and this console can be restored if they put 4 to 6 or maybe even 8 ranks. I would say 6 ranks would be more than enough. If they put that back together sometime at the museum, that would probably be enough. But for now, because this is a hop work, this is how I did this center rail that was put in there by a past owner of this instrument. So we'll see how it works out. The next step is I got to start wiring it up. I have it wired. It isn't the most beautiful wiring job I've ever done, but it works. It's done. This is a 25 pair cable. Only 42 of those wires are used. This is just a common, but 42 are used to the stop keys here. 12 of them in these 2 cables here. 12 will go to the 12 pistons that are on the manuals, and there's 2 extra wires I've got going up. I could not wring out 2 stop tabs in the middle of the horseshoe rail. I have no idea where they come out below. I've spent a lot of time trying to find them, and I'll do that again. I'll keep searching to see where they terminate. But if I can't find them, I've got 2 extra wires in here to use on those 2 stop keys. Keeping in mind that this is really just a temporary job, that eventually the club is going to convert that little console back into a real pipe organ. But for now, we'll see how I get this to work out. So I don't know how these stops are going to actually work out in the long run. These 3, of course, will work out perfectly. They'll be very useful, the couplers. The 3 extra strings, it all depends on what organ, virtual organ is used. There's the 310, the 320, the 210, 310, 320, then there's a 333. It all depends on which virtual organ is used. These could all become useful because there's not a lot of strings on the horseshoe rail. Here's 2 piano tabs. These 3, of course, Chris xylophone and cathedral bells. Well, let's see, the on the rail I think is a crystal glot on the rail, but I'm not really sure. I can't say for sure. Here's 5 tremulants, tuba trem, tibia trem, solo trem, main trem, and then this will be the clarinet trem. These will work out fine. Tambourine on the accompaniment, castanets, wood blocks, sleigh bells. Here we have 3 traps on the pedals. This one is a blank that can be used for anything. But I have to ring it out now and make sure that all the reeds work on the stop actions. So today I'm going to reinstall this center stop rail. And like I say, it won't stay in here when they put the pipes in. I've got the original one that's still in the console laying inside. This was the original back stop rail when Barton built this organ. I'm sure this will be resurrected when the organ finally gets turned back into a real pipe organ. So here's what I have so far. I redid some of the stop keys here. There was a second taped over diaphone tab on the pedal, and I think the previous owner, if I remember right, I think he had 2 16-foot diaphones. He had a wood diaphone and a metal one playing off this console. But in this case I put a 16-foot string. Although it says tenor C, it'll actually, in the virtual organ, will be a 16-foot string, 16-foot tuba, diaphone, sub bass. There was no flute, no 8-foot flute other than the 8-foot tibia, so I put this Melodia tab in. So there's now an 8-foot flute on the pedal. And of course, tibia, tuba, and string, and then the coupler from accompaniment to pedal. So that's what I did on the rail so far. Here is my center rail. Let me get the light over here so you can see it better, but I put those black coupler keys in. I don't know how many of those colored stop keys will actually be used. It all depends on what organ, virtual organ, is put on this thing. It might be the 10 rank, the 20 rank would be better. Then I could use a few more of these stops. So however this gets configured is going to be sort of up in the air until I actually get the MIDI part of the instrument done so that I can start configuring up an organ to it. So that's what it is so far at this point.